I quickly got dismissed by my boss after 15 years without a warning, but he had no idea about one secret. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I sat in the conference room, my heart pounding like a trapped bird against its cage. Across the table, Mr. Thompson's face remained impassive, his expensive suit creased at the elbows where he leaned forward, delivering words that felt like daggers piercing through 15 years of dedicated service. "We're going in a different direction," he said, avoiding eye contact with me, his voice carrying the practiced detachment of someone who had done this too many times before. 15 years. That wasn't just a number, it was my life poured into these walls. I remembered the day I started here, fresh out of college, my diploma still warm from the printer. The office had been smaller then, the staff more intimate, and Mr. Thompson, God, how young he'd looked back then, had personally trained me. We'd built this department together, brick by brick, late nights turning into early mornings, our shared victories celebrated with coffee that had long gone cold. The dismissal came without warning, without any hint of the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Just yesterday, I had been leading the quarterly review meeting, presenting figures that showed record growth for our division. The team had applauded, and even Mr. Thompson had nodded approvingly. Now, sitting here, watching him shuffle papers that didn't need shuffling, I couldn't reconcile this moment with everything that had come before it. He kept talking about restructuring, about new blood and fresh perspectives, but the words washed over me like distant waves, their meaning lost in the shock of betrayal. 15 years of loyalty, of birthdays missed and vacations postponed, of pouring my soul into projects that bore both our names, all dismissed in a 15-minute meeting that felt more like a firing squad than a professional discussion. As I gathered my belongings later that afternoon, memories assaulted me from every corner of the office. The framed certificate from our first major client hanging in the hallway, I'd landed that account after weeks of relentless pursuit. The potted plant in the corner of the break room that I'd nurtured back to health when everyone else had given up on it. The software system we used daily, I'd helped design its original architecture. Each item seemed to whisper stories of dedication and commitment, now rendered meaningless by a single conversation. What stung most wasn't just the loss of my position, but the manner of its execution. No severance package discussed, no transition period offered, not even the courtesy of a proper explanation. Just a cold, clinical termination delivered with all the warmth of a winter morning. As I packed my personal items into a cardboard box, my hands trembled not from sadness, but from the weight of secrets unspoken, secrets that could change everything if they ever came to light. The journey began on a rainy Tuesday, exactly 7 years ago, when I stumbled upon something extraordinary while organizing the company's old archives. We were transitioning from physical storage to digital records, a process that required meticulous sorting through decades of accumulated documents. Most days were filled with mundane paperwork, outdated contracts, obsolete training manuals, yellowed memos documenting trivial decisions. But on that particular afternoon, as I reached for a dusty box marked historical records, "Do not discard," something caught my eye. Nestled between faded invoices and forgotten tax returns lay a collection of notebooks, their leather covers cracked with age but still exuding an air of importance. The handwriting inside was unmistakably Mr. Thompson's. I would know it anywhere after years of reviewing his notes and reports. At first glance, they appeared to be ordinary work journals, detailing meetings and strategy sessions. But as I delved deeper, a pattern emerged that made my blood run cold. These weren't just business records, they were detailed accounts of systematic practices that bordered on corporate espionage. Page after page documented methods for acquiring competitors' information, strategies for manipulating market conditions, and plans for eliminating potential threats to our market share, all meticulously recorded under the guise of legitimate business operations. The entries spanned years, beginning shortly after Mr. Thompson had taken the helm and continuing right up until 6 months prior. My initial shock quickly gave way to a calculated determination. Instead of reporting my findings immediately, I began a careful documentation process of my own. Each notebook was photographed page by page, every entry catalogued and cross-referenced with public records. I spent countless nights in the office, verifying dates and matching events described in the journals with actual company actions. The pattern became undeniable. What I held in my hands was evidence of a carefully orchestrated campaign of corporate misconduct spanning nearly a decade. The risk of discovery was constant. I took to keeping duplicates of my documentation in multiple locations, encrypted files on secure servers, physical copies hidden in safety deposit boxes, and crucial excerpts committed to memory. Each step felt like walking a tightrope, knowing that one misstep could cost me everything. Yet, with each revelation, my resolve strengthened. These weren't just business transgressions, they represented a fundamental betrayal of everything I believed our company stood for. As the months passed, I expanded my investigation beyond the notebooks. Internal emails, financial records, and communications with third-party contractors all painted a picture of an organization operating far beyond ethical boundaries. What started as a chance discovery evolved into a comprehensive dossier that could shake the very foundations of our industry. And through it all, Mr. Thompson remained blissfully unaware, trusting in my loyalty while I quietly built a case that could destroy everything he had worked to create. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same dedication and attention to detail that had earned me promotions and praise were now being channeled into building a weapon that could bring down the entire house of cards. Each day at the office became a delicate balancing act between maintaining appearances and advancing my secret mission. During team meetings, I nodded along with strategic initiatives, all the while knowing exactly how they fit into the larger pattern of misconduct I was documenting. When Mr. Thompson praised my work ethic or commended my loyalty, I smiled politely, the weight of my knowledge pressing heavily against my ribs. This dual existence demanded sacrifices I never anticipated. Relationships outside of work suffered as I found myself unable to fully engage with friends and family, always maintaining a mental barrier between my public persona and the truth I carried. Sleep became elusive, stolen moments of rest punctuated by dreams of discovery and confrontation. Even simple pleasures like enjoying a meal or reading a book were tainted by the constant awareness of the time bomb ticking away in my mind. Yet, amid the stress and isolation, something unexpected blossomed, a profound sense of purpose. Each new piece of evidence added to my collection wasn't just another document, it was a testament to my growing conviction. The transformation was subtle at first, manifesting in small ways. I found myself standing taller during meetings, my voice carrying more authority when discussing ethical business practices. Colleagues began commenting on my increased confidence, unaware that it stemmed from possessing knowledge that could alter the course of our company's future. The emotional toll manifested in unexpected ways. Some days, the weight of responsibility felt crushing, making even routine tasks seem insurmountable. Other times, bursts of adrenaline-fueled energy propelled me through marathon research sessions, driven by the knowledge that each new discovery brought me closer to either vindication or ruin. The lines between obsession and dedication blurred, creating a state of hyper-awareness that colored every interaction and decision. Most challenging was maintaining my composure when faced with direct reminders of Mr. Thompson's trust. He would often seek my input on sensitive matters, oblivious to the fact that I knew exactly how he intended to manipulate situations for the company's benefit. These moments tested my resolve, forcing me to respond with carefully crafted answers that neither confirmed nor denied my true knowledge. The psychological strain of living this double life became a constant companion, shaping my thoughts and actions in ways both subtle and profound. As the years passed, the burden of my secret transformed from mere knowledge into a powerful force that influenced every aspect of my professional interactions. During quarterly board meetings, I listened with heightened awareness as executives presented reports and projections, recognizing the coded language and subtle manipulations that others accepted at face value. My position as a trusted senior manager provided unique access to critical information, allowing me to connect dots invisible to those without my perspective. Every handshake, every casual conversation in the hallway became an opportunity to gather additional intelligence or confirm existing suspicions. The power dynamic within the company shifted in ways few noticed. While outwardly maintaining my role as a dedicated employee, I began subtly influencing decisions and steering discussions toward more ethical paths. During strategy sessions, I would introduce alternative approaches that achieved similar results without crossing legal boundaries. My arguments, backed by years of documented evidence and thorough analysis, often carried more weight than others realized. Colleagues credited my increasing influence to rising expertise and leadership skills, never suspecting that each suggestion was carefully calculated to dismantle pieces of the corrupt system while maintaining plausible deniability. This newfound influence extended beyond formal meetings. In informal settings, I found myself strategically positioned to overhear crucial conversations or witness revealing moments of corporate vulnerability. The annual holiday party, once merely a social obligation, became a goldmine of information as executives loosened their ties and tongues. During these gatherings, I learned more about the inner workings of the company's questionable practices than any formal report could reveal. Each whispered conversation, Each drunken admission added another layer to my understanding of the web of corruption that had entangled our organization. The real challenge lay in managing the expectations of those around me. My colleagues grew increasingly reliant on my judgment, seeking my counsel on matters ranging from market strategies to personnel decisions. This created a delicate balancing act, providing guidance that steered them away from unethical choices while avoiding suspicion about my motives. The weight of this responsibility sometimes felt overwhelming, particularly when well-meaning team members sought my approval for initiatives that unknowingly aligned with the very practices I was working to expose. Perhaps most surprising was how my secret knowledge affected my relationships with junior staff members. Watching them navigate the corporate landscape with optimism and trust, I felt a profound responsibility to protect them from becoming unwitting participants in the company's unethical activities. Without directly revealing my knowledge, I began mentoring them differently, emphasizing integrity and ethical decision-making in ways that might have seemed excessive to outsiders. These interactions took on new significance as I recognized that these young professionals represented the future of the company, a future I hoped to help shape into something more honest and sustainable. Through it all, each passing month added layers to my understanding of the company's operations. What had begun as a collection of incriminating notebooks evolved into a comprehensive map of systemic corruption, complete with patterns, players, and predictable behaviors. This evolution transformed me from a mere observer into a master chess player, able to anticipate moves and countermoves within the corporate hierarchy. The power of this knowledge became both a burden and a tool, shaping my interactions and decisions with a precision that few could comprehend. The dynamics of my relationship with Mr. Thompson underwent a subtle but profound transformation as I continued to accumulate evidence. Our weekly one-on-one meetings, once straightforward discussions about departmental performance and strategic goals, became intricate dances of deception and control. I learned to read the micro-expressions that flickered across his face when certain topics arose, noting how his fingers would tap a specific rhythm on the conference table when discussing sensitive acquisitions or when particular competitors were mentioned. These observations added layers of confirmation to the documentary evidence I had collected, creating a comprehensive picture of his operational patterns. Our professional interactions took on new dimensions as I began to understand the nuances of his decision-making process. The way he would linger over certain budget line items, the careful phrasing he used when discussing potential partnerships, the strategic silences he employed during negotiations, all these elements spoke volumes to someone who knew what to look for. I adapted my behavior accordingly, learning to ask questions that would lead him to reveal more than he intended, while simultaneously steering conversations away from areas where I suspected ongoing unethical activities. The emotional complexity of these encounters cannot be overstated. There were moments when genuine appreciation for his mentorship warred with the knowledge of his complicity in corporate misconduct. During performance reviews, when he praised my dedication and expressed pride in my professional growth, I found myself struggling to maintain my composure. The man who had taught me so much about business acumen was also the architect of a system that violated everything I believed in. This internal conflict manifested in subtle ways, a slight hesitation before responding to his compliments, a careful modulation of my enthusiasm during discussions about future projects. As my investigation progressed, I developed a sophisticated system for managing our interactions. I maintained detailed notes on every conversation, cross-referencing his statements with my collected evidence to identify patterns and inconsistencies. This practice revealed fascinating insights into his psychology, how he rationalized certain actions, which aspects of the operation he preferred to remain personally distanced from, and which details he seemed genuinely passionate about implementing. Armed with this understanding, I became adept at predicting his responses to various scenarios, allowing me to steer discussions in directions that served my ultimate purpose. The power dynamic between us shifted in ways neither of us fully understood. While he continued to view me as a trusted lieutenant, executing his vision for the company's growth, I operated with the advantage of complete information. This asymmetry created moments of exquisite tension, particularly during high-stakes negotiations or crisis management situations. I watched as he deployed tactics I knew were ethically questionable, all the while contributing to the discussion with suggestions that superficially supported his approach but actually contained subtle modifications designed to minimize harm. Perhaps most challenging were the moments when his humanity broke through the corporate facade. During particularly stressful periods, he would occasionally share personal concerns or express doubts about certain business decisions. These rare glimpses of vulnerability complicated my feelings, forcing me to reconcile the image of the calculating executive with that of a person capable of doubt and introspection. I learned to navigate these moments with careful empathy, offering support and advice that maintained my cover while subtly guiding him toward more ethical considerations. The accumulation of evidence reached a critical mass during a particularly intense quarter when several major initiatives converged. Project Phoenix, as it was officially called, represented the culmination of years of strategic maneuvering and market manipulation. From my vantage point, I could see how all the threads connected: the carefully timed acquisition of smaller competitors, the strategic leaks to financial analysts, the coordinated lobbying efforts that paved the way for regulatory changes favorable to our interests. Each element of the project had been documented in excruciating detail, from initial concept meetings to final implementation plans. What made Project Phoenix particularly significant was how it exposed the full scope of the company's unethical practices. The initiative wasn't just another aggressive business move, it represented a perfect storm of corporate malfeasance. Through painstaking documentation, I had traced how seemingly independent market forces were actually orchestrated movements, how competitors were systematically weakened through a combination of legal pressure and market manipulation, and how regulatory bodies had been influenced through a network of third-party organizations. The evidence included everything from encrypted email exchanges to recorded phone calls, from financial transaction records to internal strategy documents. The timing of Project Phoenix's launch created a unique opportunity. As the company prepared to implement its most ambitious plan yet, all the key players were forced to operate in the open, coordinating their efforts through channels that left digital footprints. My position gave me unprecedented access to these communications, allowing me to build a comprehensive timeline that connected individual actions to overall strategy. Conference calls that once seemed routine now revealed themselves as crucial coordination points, with code words and euphemisms translating into concrete plans for market domination through questionable means. What truly set this phase apart was the convergence of multiple streams of evidence. Financial records showed patterns of suspicious transactions perfectly aligned with strategic announcements. Internal communications documented the careful choreography of media releases and analyst briefings designed to create specific market conditions. Third-party contracts revealed how shell companies and proxy organizations were used to execute parts of the plan while maintaining plausible deniability. Each piece of evidence reinforced and expanded upon the others, creating a web of documentation so complete that it left no room for reasonable doubt. The scale of the operation became evident in the sheer volume of documentation required to capture its complexity. Server space dedicated to encrypted files grew exponentially as I captured everything from board meeting minutes to technical implementation details. The evidence included detailed flowcharts showing how information moved through the organization, highlighting bottlenecks where crucial decisions were made and approved. Pattern analysis revealed how similar strategies had been successfully executed in smaller markets before being scaled up for national implementation. Perhaps most damning was the documentation of contingency plans and fallback positions. These revealed not just the primary strategy but also the backup measures prepared in case of exposure or failure. The existence of such detailed emergency protocols spoke volumes about the premeditated nature of the entire operation. Each contingency plan included specific instructions for covering tracks, redirecting blame, and minimizing legal exposure, all meticulously documented in language that betrayed their true purpose beneath layers of corporate jargon. As Project Phoenix moved closer to execution, the frequency and intensity of my documentation efforts increased. Late nights in the office became routine, with each new development requiring immediate recording and cross-referencing. The evidence collection process evolved from a series of discrete actions into a continuous operation, with multiple streams of information converging in real time. This comprehensive approach ensured that no detail, no matter how small, escaped documentation. From minor procedural changes to major strategic shifts, everything was captured and catalogued, building toward what I knew would eventually become an irrefutable case against the company's unethical practices. The news of my termination spread through the company like wildfire, igniting reactions that ranged from shocked disbelief to quiet satisfaction among different factions. In the crowded elevator rides and hurried hallway encounters that followed, I observed a complex tapestry of human emotion playing out in real time. Longtime colleagues who had shared both triumphs and challenges with me suddenly avoided eye contact or offered awkward condolences in hushed tones. Their discomfort was palpable, a mixture of guilt for not speaking out and relief that they weren't the ones facing sudden unemployment. Some, emboldened by my departure, began questioning procedures and decisions they had previously accepted without comment, sensing perhaps that the status quo was more fragile than it appeared. In the break room, Clusters of employees gathered in tense circles, their conversations dropping to whispers whenever someone from upper management approached. The atmosphere crackled with nervous energy, as if everyone collectively understood that something fundamental had shifted, though few could articulate exactly what. Younger staff members, many of whom I had mentored, looked particularly unsettled, their faith in the company's stability visibly shaken. I watched as they exchanged meaningful glances, some beginning to question the path they had chosen, while others seemed to harden their resolve to climb the corporate ladder regardless of the cost. Upper management reacted with a curious blend of defensiveness and calculation. During impromptu meetings hastily called to address staff concerns, their carefully rehearsed explanations about necessary changes and strategic realignments rang hollow against the backdrop of widespread unease. I noticed how they avoided discussing specifics, instead focusing on vague assurances about the company's bright future. The HR director, who had barely participated in my dismissal meeting, now found herself at the center of a maelstrom of rumors and speculation, her usual confident demeanor replaced by visible anxiety as she fielded questions she clearly wasn't authorized to answer. The ripple effects extended beyond immediate emotional reactions. Productivity metrics began showing subtle shifts, with some departments experiencing noticeable slowdowns while others accelerated their work pace, possibly hoping to demonstrate irreplaceable value. Team dynamics altered overnight, as individuals recalibrated their relationships and alliances in response to the changing power structure. Former rivals suddenly found common ground in shared uncertainty, while established friendships fractured under the pressure of differing interpretations of my dismissal's implications. Most intriguing was the emergence of what could only be described as a shadow network within the company. In quiet corners of the office, during extended coffee breaks, and through encrypted messaging apps, employees began sharing information and theories about the circumstances surrounding my departure. Pieces of my carefully constructed documentation, though never explicitly referenced, seemed to surface in these conversations, taking on lives of their own as they passed from person to person. The collective consciousness of the organization was shifting, and I could feel the ground preparing to give way beneath the carefully maintained facade of corporate normalcy. Amidst this turmoil, I maintained my composure, moving through the office like a ghost haunting its own former life. Each interaction, each overheard conversation added to my understanding of how deeply my dismissal had disturbed the company's equilibrium. The situation had become a pressure cooker, with tensions rising and alliances shifting in unpredictable ways. Everyone seemed to be waiting for something to happen, though few could articulate exactly what that might be. The stage was set for revelations that would fundamentally alter the company's trajectory, and I knew that my 15 years of dedication, culminating in this dramatic exit, had merely been the prologue to a much larger story about to unfold. As I walked out of the office for the last time, the weight of my secret pressed heavily against my chest. The company I had devoted 15 years to was teetering on the edge of collapse, its unethical foundation rotting from within. My dismissal wasn't an end, it was a beginning. With every step away from the building, I felt the power of truth growing stronger in my hands. The evidence I had meticulously gathered over the years was no longer just documentation, it was a weapon, a catalyst for change. But as I reached the parking lot, a question lingered. Should I expose everything now and bring the empire crashing down, or bide my time, letting the cracks widen until they could no longer be ignored? Either way, one thing was certain, Mr. Thompson had dismissed me without realizing that his greatest threat wasn't outside the company walls. It was me, walking away with the key to his undoing. And soon, he would learn just how dangerous loyalty betrayed could truly be.